Before I even joined, we had a number of fires on Main Street, and one of the first ones that I remember was the fire in the Red Owl store. I think I was in first grade then. I could go home for lunch because we lived so close to the school. And so I went down there at noon because my dad was there fighting the fire.
Envision what Excelsior was like when the hook and ladder company was first formed. When a building burned down, only the chimney was left. They took that hook and ladder and they threw the ladder up, hooked the hook to the chimney and pulled it down. Around 1891 is when we come to when the fire department was actually organized.
This organization couldn't run without the people, which is a couple of full-time people, but the majority being the paid-on-call volunteer. They're coming because they're committed. And that's part of that family and that connection, I think, that we have in this paid-on-call fire department. But it's really the predecessors in our 125-year history that helped lay that foundation.
Well, I joined the fire department in January of 1950. My grandfather started in 1905. My dad joined in 1918. My son, 1974 or something like that he joined. When I joined, we were in the old village hall in Excelsior. There was one door that the trucks went in and out of, and it was low overhead. You had to be sure and duck your head or you're going to lose it as you went out the door. You would see fellows that were climbing on the tailboard as the truck went out this door. Fellows would be holding them on while they were putting on their rubber goods. Hopefully you'd get dressed by the time you got to the fire, but everybody was kind of hanging on for dear life back there. Mid-1950s, I guess, that we moved into what was the new fire station then in Excelsior. And then they started getting some better equipment.
When the west side of Main Street in Excelsior, Water Street burned down, they took that as an opportunity to try and get more equipment, better equipment. And one of the other things that the fire department was intertwined with was an ordinance that goes back to the late 1800s, where buildings that burned down or were destroyed had to be built from brick. And that's why we see the brick buildings.
Probably the two biggest fires were the Blue Line Cafe, which was just a huge old wooden structure that, there was no chance of saving it once it got started. And the other one was the dance hall, which a lot of people are familiar with. No putting it out, you just kept it from spreading.
Fundraisers were a big part of our fire department's history. Had fundraising dances regularly. They had watermelon feeds and wrestling matches and basketball games.
The smelt fry was started in the 1950s. And there was a number of fellows that would get together and they would hear that the smelt were running up on the North Shore, and they'd come back with this big tub full of smelt and nothing to do but clean smelt.
The Excelsior Volunteer Fire Department, as it once was called, originally was owned by the firefighters, and eventually the city of Excelsior purchased the fire department. It contracted to the other cities until it came down to it was 4 other cities in the city of Excelsior. They decided, hey, what about if we could get all 5 cities to have ownership of the fire department? There's where the Excelsior Fire District came from.
We have 2 beautiful fire stations, one located in the city of Deep Haven and one in Shorewood, that serve our fire district operations amongst the 5 cities. We have state-of-the-art apparatus, we have state-of-the-art equipment. It's not just fire service anymore, it's fire, it's emergency medical services.
The reason I've done it for so long is it's been needed. I grew up with it from my grandfather and my father. It just kind of gets in your blood. It's an honor, of course. I remember the day that it was unveiled. They called me out there and took the sign off, and it was a big party.
125 years, one of the oldest fire departments in the state. This year we're able to celebrate that. September 10th is a date that we hope the community gets a chance to be able to come out and celebrate with us. We're going to do tours at both of our fire stations, and we're going to do an apparatus parade in downtown Excelsior from 1:30 till 3. We're going to host a water fight event. During that same time, we're going to offer some watermelon. Well, back in our history, one of the things that we did to celebrate community was connect, and we served watermelon. September 12th at the Excelsior Brewery, starting at 7 p.m. We'll be hosting an event tapping history. I'm certainly very humbled, very honored to be able to be the fire chief of this organization. The predecessors that have brought it to where we are today, they've helped really put the foundation there. think we have one of the best organizations in the state of Minnesota, and our goal is to be able to continue to do that, and that means excellence, and that means to continue to try to do the best we can to provide service.